when they first show up to your building or on your website or on that phone call, whatever your avenue, your channel is for clients, it needs to be the simplest you can make it for them. Because you start throwing up challenges, your website doesn't work, or it's clunky, you got broken links, or it loads too slow, whatever it is, you start putting up all these obstacles for yourself. You may have a fantastic offer, but if the obstacles to get that offer is too much work, they're going to go somewhere else.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Return on Investment MF channel. It's your host, Zack, ROI Williams. And this is the information your haters don't want you to hear about. Becoming the most badass version of yourself in business. What's up, guys? It is Zack, ROI Williams, here with another badass episode of Return on Investment MF channel. So today I got a really badass guest for you. This is Brian motherfucking McKittrick, and he is, man, it's super awesome. He's a part of the Goon Squad. You've heard me talk about them a lot. You've heard me talk about Ryan Stewman and his entourage and just the badass executives that he keeps around him. And Brian is definitely one of those people. He is one of his executive coaches. I'm super excited. He actually just got off a call with one of his mentors. So I'm sure he's fired up. I'm sure he's got a lot of energy going on. And he is a #1 best-selling author of It Ain't Rocket Surgery. For those of you who are just listening, I've got it here, but it'll be in the on video, but it's going to be in the show notes as well. But without further ado, my man, Brian, what is up, brother?
Good morning. How are you? Awesome.
Dude,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited to have you. Super excited to see what a lot of my following, they're into marketing, they're into, aspiring entrepreneurship, but sales, as you know, is an absolute #1 thing that everyone's in sales, whether you know it or not. So I'm excited to have you spill into, my following. So without further ado, why don't you just tell them a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, and what you're good at?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in the insurance space, which is funny. I don't think anybody, maybe my son might be the first one, ever grows up saying, I want to be an insurance agent. It's always like baseball player, ninja, movie star. But I've been in sales it's crazy to think about it now, since 1999. So over 20 years of my life. I've been in sales, whether it's been retail. I did sell cars for about a year. In the last 7 years has been insurance. I am an agency owner and a divisional VP of an organization. So it's been a blessing for my family, sales. And but prior to sales, I grew up blue collar and born in Texas, DFW area, which is where I live still now. But that was my growing up. My parents were blue collar workers. My dad got his degree, ended up being got his engineering degree, ended up working in a factory. My mom was a factory worker, then fast food manager. And they always talked about, you should have a salary, you should be supported by your company, that kind of thing. So when I got into sales, in the fall of 99, it was a turn on for me to be able to write my own paycheck and not have to rely on the company.
No doubt. So this is, so typically, like I said, I'll introduce you and then we'll jump into some questions, but I kind of got like something you triggered. I got like a bonus question that I'm going to throw at you.
Okay.
So insurance sales, and I'm familiar with this just from the marketing side of things, is there's so much red tape. There's so much that goes on. Like you really do have to be like clean cut, clear about what you do and how you sales. How do you think having more of a like buttoned up sales approach helps, hurts, or like how does that kind of spill over into if you look at the rest of myself or even Ryan, we clearly have a different sales strategy that probably could not utilize in such a pretty approach. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't see it as a hindrance. I just see it as a condition of the market. So there's a difference between a problem and a condition. If you make a problem out of, I've seen financial advisors make a problem of the regulations they have to go through. Like, oh, I can't say this, I can't say that. I said, there's still a number of things that you can do. Yes, insurance does typically, it's not sexy. It's ironic. It's the thing that you sell that no one wants to use.
Interesting.
Because if you use it, it's a bad thing, right? If you have to
Right.
use your insurance, it's a bad thing. But if you see it as just a condition of the market, so I embrace the persona of it. So like you see me in my content, and I'll, like real quick, if for the video, there's my graphic. I made a graphic, a cartoon out of what I look like, which is I jokingly say like Mr. Rogers. You got the sweater over a button-up shirt and the tie. And I just embrace that side of it. So for me personally, yes, my content does come out clean. I don't use cuss words. It's not raw in your face type stuff, but I'm putting out a persona of professionalism. I am a father. I'm a dad twice over. So I talk about the family aspect of it because my ideal client is concerned with protecting their family. So I just embrace that part of it and have fun with it.
No, I love that. And let me just preface too, like what I'm saying with this for everyone that's listening is I'm not saying that, being clean and cut and clear is a bad thing by any means. I'm just saying it's just not necessarily my approach, but I think this is a great, and I love having you on here because there is a portion of my listening base that does not reflect the same strategies that I have. Yep. And so to know that you can still be successful without having to be like loud and obnoxious, let's just put it that way, is something that I think everyone can learn from. But also like the way I like to look at things is, obviously at the end of the day, this works 1,000,000% for you. What I do works 1,000,000% for me, but there's still tips and tricks that we can trade and knock off each other and find a way to kind of give it our own spin, our own brand voice, and our own brand message. But yeah, that's awesome.
I agree. I think if you try to pretend to be something you're not, just because you like something about someone else, it's not going to go over well. People that you mentioned Stuman, other people like that, Sean Whalen, Andy Frisella, they have that raw in your face. And as much as I like listening to the Frisella, I like the rant ones he does where it's like 10 to 15 minute rants.
Yeah.
I still don't speak that way. I enjoy Sean's content, but I don't put myself out that way because that's not natural to me. My jokes and my humor is slapstick, it's sly, it's innuendo. So it's not going to be something that's as raw as in your face. When people, they do get an idea of what your persona is based upon how you look. So when you get into conversations with people or boardrooms or behind, private chats, like, oh, you're a lot more delightfully twisted than I thought you were.
I love it. I love it. So, yeah, man. So Brian, again, for those that are just listening, I'm holding this book right now. It Ain't Rocket Surgery. It's a badass sales book. I highly recommend reading it. And our questions are going to kind of jump or mirror off of this. So in the book, Brian, you obviously talk about the salesperson, the sales environment, and the sales experience. So I kind of want to break that down. I don't want to take too much away from the book because I do want my, listening base to highly recommend picking that book up right now. It's on Amazon, correct? Yes.
Yep. It was it was the number one bestseller. Actually the number one sales book when we launched. I even beat out Belfort. So that's pretty cool.
That's incredible. That's
at launch day. I don't think I've beaten him anymore, but
that's beautiful. That's a tough market to come through. So I appreciate that. So as far as the salesperson goes, what is the number one tip that you can give someone to be the best salesperson there is?
So I think the key for being a great salesperson falls to consistency and simplicity. I think about, I'm a big sports fan, and I think about the teams that do it really well. They occasionally will have someone who is just a phenom athlete, but what is common amongst high performers is doing the fundamental things well all the time and being consistent with it. So for instance, your sales process shouldn't vary too much client to client. Obviously, you're going to tailor your approach and your presentation on what's important to them by client. However, your process for gathering information, your introduction, it's okay to script all that out, not be robotic, but script it out and have that routine every single time. Because if you have mapped that out, those fundamentals, when a customer comes in, they can't derail you. If you don't have it, you're not going to know where you're going. Begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. then you're going to easily get detracted and you're not going to know, okay, why did I miss this sale? Why did I make this sale? You're not going to have the information to know what went well, what went wrong to replicate it.
Right. No, that makes sense. So as far as consistency goes, and clearly here you're talking about the structure. When you are structuring, and now obviously sales is an extremely broad thing, and kind of like what you and I spoke about off air is, everyone's in sales. Everyone. I don't care what you do. At the end of the day, the number one thing you got to do to anyone is sell yourself, right? And I think you had commented on one of my videos where I had made a comment that if you're not an expert on anything, you're at least an expert on yourself, right? And so kind of reverse engineering on the strategy of how someone could reverse engineer themselves. Sell themselves to the customer in your world and in your experience, because a lot's changed in 20 years, which is what I think is really awesome about having someone with as much experience as you have. Is how important do you think selling the product versus selling yourself versus selling the dream falls in place?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So as far as yourself, there should be some time that you take as some introspective, like literally, sit on the couch for, 15, 20 minutes and try to figure out what is it about me that makes me me. Some people are, forward, in your face, raw. If you can find a way to do that in a professional setting that you work in, make that happen. But you should not deny your natural tendencies and your natural quirks. Each part of the sales process has a different. I've seen salespeople over the years that are better at each part of the sales process. Some of them are very good closers. Some of them are very good overcoming objections. My personal style, I think I am very good on the front end of gathering information. So when I make a recommendation, that's really what they should buy. So I don't have to hard close or hard press someone into getting it because I've recommended it properly. So if you can go back and see what it is that you do extremely well and focus in on that and really get better at what you already do well, that I think helps the salesperson. Okay. Trying to force yourself into be something different than what you are is going to be too hard. You can catch that phoniness, if you will.
You're dealing with people 24/7, right? And
sure,
no matter what you're doing, life still happens to you, right? Like, so you've got good days, you've got bad days. And I know that you mentioned consistency, and I love that because in my mind, when I was, more focused on sales versus the marketing aspect, a light switch went off in my brain or in my head one day. And I literally went back to work the next day overnight and tripled my output. And would you know that my check was triple the amount as well?
Yeah.
And so as far as like the consistency goes on stuff like that, and allowing yourself to either be swayed by the outside, powers, or like, how do you go about your day to day, like when you're having a good day, when you're having a bad day, or that, you really make sure that you are keeping your own self accountable to that consistency that you strive so hard to hit?
Keeping yourself, you said the accountable word. I think that's the key there. So you need to set up a goal that's going to be financial goal is not enough. You need to have a goal that moves you emotionally. It could be money, but a lot of times people will have a goal that's like, okay, money is just a tool to have something else. Some people are turned on by cars. Some people are turned on by things. Cool. My personally, for our family, we're turned on by experiences. We want to get out once a quarter. My son started flying before he was 2 years old, just because we enjoy travel. He's been to 3 countries. We enjoy traveling around, and that for us is what the means gets. So I am also motivated by this is a lot of people in our circle. We don't want to go back to the poverty or the tough times that we grew up on. So my promise, once I had my son, of course my wife as well, but then now, especially when I have my son and my daughter, is I'm not going to allow them to experience what I had to experience. I'm much tougher than they are right now. So I will be the one to fight those demons and make sure that their life is as best as I can make it. So you need to have a why that's bigger than what you do every day. So you don't close the Johnson family deal. No big deal. Your next call is with the Joneses. Get them. I'm not turned on by beating somebody else per se, but I set my achievement level, my goal level higher, and it just naturally over time beat them by attrition.
Right.
I remember one of my favorite athletes, if not my favorite athlete, is Emmitt Smith. He set the goal to be the all-time leading rusher when he was still in high school. He was not even at the University of Florida yet. And he said, I'm going to beat Walter Payton. Man. His whole career was about that moment when he finally did it. And then he did something in the way the game has changed now. I don't know if it's attainable anymore to pass him up.
No, I love that. And it's funny. You mentioned your why, because that's that moment, that overnight, when I came back to work and had tripled my sales. It was after a moment where I bent down and kissed my daughter inside my wife's belly, looked up and looked at my wife in the eyes. And I was like, oh, bro, like, I'm not just cheating myself when I leave here and like give a half-ass attempt at sales. I'm cheating them in our future. And it's been amazing ever since. So next you talk in your book heavily about the sales environment, which I think is obviously huge. Now, especially from 20 years ago, a lot has changed in about the sales environment, but especially nowadays in the last 24, 36 months, our entire world's changed. I like to take a glass half full versus a glass half empty look. A lot of things negative have happened in the business world, and I hate it. But also I'll say that a lot has changed for the better, depending on how you look at it. We now live in a world where it is socially acceptable to make millions of dollars together without ever shaking hands with each other, which is a pretty crazy concept to wrap your head around. But I would ask you that what is the best way in today's world to control your sales environment?
I would say is going back to the simplicity, but more so the fact that if you could, your construct of your place needs to be as easy as possible for your client. You need to make this is where you make the transaction simple. We have so many choices now for providers of whatever we sell. Like if you sell Hondas, there's countless dealers around the country that sell Hondas. You and I have a friend in the network, Scott Simons. He literally sells vehicles all over the U.S. to Apex members. He lives in a small town in Virginia. So they go to him because the process is simple. He's professional. So craft that within your organization. As soon as that customer walks in the door, the closing process has already begun, even really technically before they got there. But when they first show up to your building or on your website or on that phone call, whatever your avenue, your channel is for clients, it needs to be the simplest you can make it for them. Because you start throwing up challenges, your website doesn't work, or it's clunky, you got broken links, or it loads too slow, whatever it is, you start putting up all these obstacles for yourself. You may have a fantastic offer, but if the obstacles to get that offer is too much work, they're going to go somewhere else.
Man, no, 100%. Yeah. I call that customer friction. And I'm really put like a major focus on that from the marketing side of things. What we've kind of done as of the last like 12, 14 months, is we've pretty much synergized your marketing department and your sales department, because these are the two bottlenecks, the arguments. Like your marketing's like, well, your sales crew can't close deals. And then your sales guys are like, well, the leads suck. And then you start really taking a dive down into it. And really, it's just because they don't understand that sales process, right? And that customer friction and how to qualify the leads, properly. But it is a very fine line on what type of customer friction you put into the process. And so my question is, from what you've said, is it almost sounds as if, I've talked with a lot of salespeople. I love sales. And, most people will always push towards, obviously, being in person is king. You get to see people's body language. You get to talk to them, touch them. You get to get physically on their level, versus, the next best option at this point would be like what we're doing now, Zoom calls, where we still kind of get some sort of a idea on like what their body language is saying and maybe some mood. And then of course you got, phone call and then maybe text message or whatever else.
Sure.
But it's almost sounding like, and not saying that this is right or wrong. I just genuinely want to hear your approach on this. Is you're saying, if they don't have time to meet, do a Zoom call. If they don't have time to do a Zoom call, call them. If they don't have time to call them, like, obviously that is that kind of that natural flow. But to you, instead of putting off an in-person meeting to next week, or a Zoom call till Friday, or a phone call until Tuesday, you're going to text them right now and get the deal done.
Yeah, I think you need to live wherever the customer is comfortable living first. So you need to have channels for all of that. So you and I are active in social media. I have a way to capture interested people through social media messages, mostly Facebook for me. So I have a funnel that takes them to, it has a calendar link, or they can literally start a health quote or a life insurance quote from that page. So when someone says, "Hey, I hear you're the guy to talk to about an insurance plan," yeah, I'd love to have I'd love to assist. I always say assist. I don't say help. People don't want help. I always say assist. And I said, "Would you prefer to have a call or get information online?" Whatever they respond with, they say, "Oh, I'd love to have a brief call." No problem. Here's my link. The top of the thing is you can schedule a call with me. I usually talk on phone call for insurance. Rarely do I do a Zoom, just because I don't have to.
Right.
But wherever they're comfortable living, you need to be able to operate there first, whether that's text, social media, email, before a phone call, Zoom, or even in person. So you have to live on all those channels.
And, so I appreciate you saying that, because in all honesty, like, from the like a sales quote unquote guru, and I hate the word guru. That's why a lot of times I use it like, sarcastically, but sales guru is going to tell you like, no, you got to close them in person, or no, then you got to close them on Zoom. At the end of the day, some people just want to fucking sit around in their underwear on their couch and handle business.
Yeah.
They might not want to do in person or on Zoom. So
if you think about it, a phone call is a pretty sizable commitment. While we were talking here, I missed a call from someone within our organization. I just text them, I'll call you right back. Just because I assume every time, so my phone rings, I assume it's going to be 30 minutes every single time.
Right.
So I'm going to spend at least 15 to 30 minutes. And if I've got an appointment before our call at 11, it's 5 till, and that phone rings, I'm going to have to send it to voicemail or send them a text, call you right back.
Yep.
Because I can't make that commitment and get off the phone in 5 minutes before you and I have a call.
Wow. So I actually have a buddy of mine. He's a billionaire, and I had to learn a very interesting lesson once you get to that level. So all you do is you text the word call to him.
Yes. Yep.
And he either calls you immediately or he gives you a time when he's going to call you back. And that is it. That is you don't pick up the phone and call him. You don't text him some long message. You literally just say call. And he's either calling you immediately or he's going to say 15 minutes, 1 p.m. or whatever. And that is it. Yep. And I was like,
but that's cool to know that a billionaire is doing that, because I've already gotten last couple of years, it's been training people that way.
Wow. No doubt.
I always text, can we have a call? And or someone texts me, hey, can we have a call? Or leaves them a voicemail and text them back. Can you talk at 4 p.m., whatever it is?
Oh man. Yeah.
That's cool. He's doing that.
Yeah. Brett, he's super cool, man. He's got, he has 3 different patents that he owns, and all 3 patents gross him $60 million before his head comes off the pillow a year. I was like, God bless.
Wow.
He's a cool dude. But yeah, just text the word call. That's it. Awesome, man. I like that. So controlling your environment really comes down to, for lack of better terms, something you probably wouldn't say, is whatever the fuck your client wants, essentially.
Yeah. You need to be malleable. But at the same time, it is your business. So you have your parameters, but just be able to start the conversation and live where they live. That eventually, if you're in a position where what you sell has to be on the phone or even in person, like car or homes, real estate, whatever is in person, cool. Just have a way to be able to lead up to that process first.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So the next section in your book that you talk about is the sales experience. And I'm sure we could ask 100 different, top level salespeople, how do you control your sales experience? And you're going to get 100 different answers. But in your opinion, and in your 20 plus years of experience, what is the strongest way that you use to control your customer's experience, or sales experience rather?
Yes, it is mastering your process in terms of have a structured process. So when that phone, use a phone call example, when that phone rings, right away set the expectation of where this is going to go or how this is going to go, and keep it to that format. You may have some rabbit trails, but come back to your steps. So you need to have a clear step from step 1 through whatever, however many steps of your sales process, and map that out, and don't get derailed. If you know where you're going, it's easier to think about, okay, what the next step is going to be. So when someone calls me, hey, I'm looking for a health plan. Great. I have a few questions. So we're going to go through that way. I can make sure I got the right plan for you. And then I start going through my process, but I set the expectation right away of how this is going to go.
Okay.
That takes some fortitude. But people just are so happy to talk to a client that, oh, I'm just going to do whatever they tell me to. And you miss information. You're not closing properly because you made the wrong recommendation. If you stick to your process up and start from up front, Ryan calls it catch. That part is the A stands for assign them to an agenda. That's what I'm talking about. This is how we're going to go.
I like that. So I think that's good for a lot of either beginners that are listening in the sales world, or just even people that have been doing this for a while that have either, as per your term, derailed themselves from their processes or what. But I like that. So, one thing I've had to learn in my life in sales and business and my relationships, like what have you, is when you start getting desperate, you start messing up.
Sure.
And so I like what you were saying about, when someone gets that phone call and they're eager to make the sale or whatever the case is, they end up letting the customer control them and control that conversation. And I think it's important to learn in sales when to lead from the front and when to lead from the back, right? Obviously, Ryan says all the time, the person that speaks the least, wins. Yeah. And I think that is important. And that does kind of hint back to what you were talking about, how your process, you're a good listener, right? You get to figure out what those processes are, or what it is that client needs the most. Mm-hmm. And that's how you come in and close before you even have to close. So something you said earlier, and this is just me thinking out loud for some of the people that are listening, is if they do not have that process in place yet, and we spoke about it earlier, and I speak on this a lot, is beginning with the end in mind. Is that how you recommend creating your sales process? Is figuring out, all right, what is Zack's objective? Okay, Zack's objective is to, close this client on, $30,000 a month in marketing expenses. So this is where I need to go. What is it from that point, knowing I got to do that I have to create my process to be able to sell them properly?
Right. So I went through this recently with designing my health quote funnel. So it is literally, the customer wouldn't see this, but it's 40 pages of funnel pages. It's incredibly complex. But so my thought was, okay, I want them to end up with a recommendation, and that's when I get the lead. So I had to take myself through, what's that look like going from they just land on the page to getting a recommendation. So start with, if you need to recraft and dial in your process, then take the same steps. So, okay, so what's the end result? Okay, let's say cars, they're going to drive off the lot. Okay, that's delivery. How do they get to delivery? So you need to connect the dots between walking on the lot to delivery. Now, it sounds easy in a vacuum, but start mapping out each single stage. The part that where salespeople really have the most worry and the most stress is the close and handling objections. If you really think about what objections truly come to, it's really not that many. Right. They might say a variation of things, but it's really not that many. In my experience, it rolls down to, it could be money. In that case, just roll to the next less expensive thing if possible. Could be a money problem, could be a timing problem, not right now, or it could be I guess the best way to say this would be advice problem. When people say, I need to talk to my wife or husband or my business partner or something like that. It's usually one of those three, right?
Right.
Not many other there's going to be some variations here and there that could be unique to your client or possibly your customer base. But for the most part, that's it. Closing is just asking for the sale, knowing that you've done the other pieces right. Right. If you've got the proper recommendation for someone and that's what they should buy, you absolutely have the right to say, does this work for you, or can we move forward? However way best you want to say. Okay. So that's where people really get hung up the most. But if you've done the front end so well, you should be able to bypass a lot of the objections, and closing should feel naturally. Right. So yeah, map all that out. But in my book and in those chapters, I do have an overcoming objection chapter, like a lot of great sales books. Well, I have a pretty thick chapter on closing. But my experience is, if you do the stuff up front correctly, you're getting the right buyers by marketing correctly, you're going through the process correctly, making the proper recommendations. Closing should just be one single question in most cases.
No, you're 100% right. And I think it really does go back to what you said earlier, is like kind of listening to what that person really wants. Because at the end of the day, like you and I know like, why does someone want to buy this Lamborghini? Well, they want to buy this Lamborghini because they want to be cool. Why do they want to be cool? It's because their friends have Lamborghinis and they think their friends are cool, and they want their friends to think that they are cool. So that, it's this whole mindset process of, yes, you want to buy a Lamborghini because you want to be cool, but deep down it's because, and this, obviously we come from a circle of people that do own we have lots of friends that own Lamborghinis. Sure. And so obviously I'm not saying that everyone drives a Lamborghini is doing it because they care what someone else thinks about. I'm a car guy, but at the end of the day, I bought a 1967 Lincoln Continental that I could have a Lamborghini sitting in my garage right now for what I have in that car. But to me, that's what I wanted. I'll do like going fast. I don't have the money to go fast all the time. So I'll go rent a car at the track and do that. But, my dream was what's sitting in the garage. And, at the end of the day, why did I want that? Because that is something to me that I've envisioned that car for probably close to 20 years now. So deep down, that was my reward for all these years of like hard work, showing me that, the time spent away from my family, this, that, whatever, was worth something. And some people that are listening to this are gonna be like, oh my God, like he put a material, time with his family, below a material object. And obviously if you're listening to that, you can stop listening to this podcast right now because you haven't listened to a fucking word I've said. This whole project. But at the end of the day, there's something deeper than just a material object. It's something different. There's a goal and a dream that someone's trying to, basically an itch someone's trying to scratch. And I like what you said, because I say all the time, people spend money to make money, spend money to save money, spend money to save time. Most of the time it's in health, wealth, and relationships. So if you can find ways of proving that to them, that whatever it is, whatever this product or service you have is the vehicle to get them to their dreams, you'll close them every time. I love, it's funny. Alex Hormozi, I just got to see him live, which was really great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, dude. He's super powerful. I actually got to hang out with him, and we're actually DMing and stuff on Instagram now. So I feel pretty cool, but anyways, one of my favorite things that I got from him is people don't have a money spending problem. They have a decision-making problem. And, at the end of the day, a lot of times when people get on that phone call with you, Brian, they already know that they need insurance, right? They already know that they need insurance. So it's not about the money, because they know insurance is going to cost money anywhere they go, but they do have a decision-making problem. It actually, going back to Alex Hormozi, I do consume a lot of his content. As he was talking about, he was with his wife, which I got to see her, Layla, speak to, which was really cool. And they were shoe shopping, and the shoe sales lady was over working with them. And obviously we all know that the Hormozis have any amount of money that they need. And Layla, not in a condescending way, she just wasn't really 100% sure that those were the shoes for her. And obviously the salesperson was trying to get them to purchase. And Layla's like, well, it's not about the money. It's just, I don't know that these are the shoes for me. And the sales lady, and you're doing something right when you get Alex Hormozi to stop and think and be like, damn, that was good. But she goes, well, it is about the money. And Layla kind of stopped. And I think Alex kind of turned and looked at her too. And was like, whoa. And she's like, well, if I gave these to you for free, would you take them? And Layla was like,
sure.
Well, yeah, if they were free, I would take them. Yeah. Well, then it is a money problem. We just don't have enough value there for you to justify, what you're spending. And so I think that's a great, point and way to kind of overcome some of those objections. And like you were saying, is if you have that information on the front end, you have all the ammo you need. So that close is just a rollover if you're presenting the product or service in the right way for, to be custom tailored to what you learned prior in the information gathering stage, like you do. So I like that a lot, because no one likes a stressful close.
You get unnerved, they get unnerved, like, oh, here comes the close,
Yeah.
When you talk about the price thing, there's what I thought like the value line. Your price either needs to, whatever value you can build the item up to is where you're trying to exceed value over price. Most people would love to have their own jet. Well, the cost to have your own jet is very substantial, but if it saves you more money than it costs, then it's worth it. So
100%.
Yeah,
man. Well, I appreciate it. And I've seen your phone go off a couple of times during this. So I know that you're a very busy man. And so I really do appreciate you carving out some time for not only myself, but more so for the listeners. I really do want people to get stuff out of this. So guys, nonetheless, #1 bestseller, Brian McKittrick. Let's go ahead. Let them know how they can find you. We'll put all this information in the notes so you can find it easily, but I'd like them to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I made it really simple to find me. It's just brianmckittrick.com. Brian is with an I, and the last name is spelled M as in Michael, CKITTRICK.com. That's my link to have, Facebook connection, get the book, that kind of thing. I do have a podcast, and on my writing content, we have a group called salesastronautacademy.com. So you can find all the media stuff there. If you wanted more, just catch the book, some other media content.
Excellent, brother. Well, man, Brian, I appreciate it. Everyone,
thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Go scoop up the book. You're not going to be upset. Like I said, everyone that's listening to this is in sales in one way, form, or fashion. So this is definitely going to help you. One thing I like to ask people all the time is, whatever it is that I'm trying to sell you, is this going to help you get closer to your goal or further away from your goal? And if you say closer, then go buy the fucking book. So Brian, awesome. I appreciate it, man. And
thank you.
We'll be talking soon. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video at all or got anything else out of it, please check out these videos over here. They're going to be right in line with what you just saw.